Hello and welcome back to my channel. On this video, I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I want to read in February, and I'm doing something a little bit different this month because I have a ton of both physical and digital library books that have stacked up, and I want to get through as many of them as I can. So I went through the list of books that I have out from the library, which is quite a few, and I found about I think it's like 27 of them that are due soon, and that I want to try to get through as many as I can so that I don't have to return them. Many of these are really popular books, and I want to read them before I have to return them because it'll take a while for them to get back to me in the queue. So I may or may not get through all these books this month. I'm definitely putting more on my list than I normally would. And I'm also still going to do my alphabet challenge, which is picking a random letter from the alphabet and then picking out books from my Kindle that fall into that letter. So this month, there's going to be over 30 books that I'm going to have on my list as possibles for my to be read pile. But let me tell you a little bit about the books I have out from the library. Some of these I remember why I have them out from the library and why I'm interested in them. Others of them I don't remember as much. I just know they're popular. But let me go through the quick list of what is on my to be read pile for this coming month. So the first book is a new one out by Pema Chodron called How We Live is How We Die. Pema Chodron is a Buddhist practitioner, and I love to read whatever she has that comes out. She talks a lot about kind of dealing with change and difficulty, and so when I saw this at the library, I absolutely picked it up. Easy choice for me. I also picked up Temple Grandin's Thinking in Pictures, My Life with Autism. One of the things that I've been looking into more is autism because I have a couple of clients who identify as autistic, and I also have a couple of family members who identify as autistic. And one of the things I don't know much about is autism in general, but also specifically autism in women. So I went ahead and picked this one up to take a look at. I also stumbled across Caro Ramsey's The Devil's Stone, which is the first in a new series about DCI Christine Kaplan. I feel like I know quite a few mystery writers, and this one was absolutely brand new to me. I've never heard of this person, and when I looked her up, I saw that she also has a bunch of books on Kindle Unlimited, but this book, which is a new one in the series, was at my library. They don't have much else by her, so I want to test it out and see what I think about this new writer and this new series. Also, I have on my list The Fixer-Upper by Lauren Forsyth. This is a romance about a woman who fixes up other people's boyfriends to try to give them better habits and qualities in their relationships. It just looked kind of funny, and so I thought I would pick it up. I also ordered and got from my library a book called Code Name Blue Wren by Jim Popkin. It is a nonfiction book about an actual female spy who was caught. And I don't know much about spies, and so I thought I would pick it up and take a read. I also saw a ton of people talking about a book called Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough. And this is one that I don't know much about. I'm just looking at the description. It looks like it's kind of romantic suspense. And maybe involves a bit of kind of like a love triangle between three people. I don't know much more than that, but I've seen a lot of people talking about it, and so I thought I would give it a try and see what I think there. All right, let's see. Next up, I picked up Kate Alice Marshall's What Lies in the Woods. I read a previous book by this author. It was a young adult book that I loved. I thought it was so good. It's about a girl and her father. And the girl goes to visit her father, and then her father kind of has some kind of attack in his cabin, and the girl has to survive in the woods. I'll put a picture of the cover on the video. But this one, What Lies in the Woods, is this author's adult fiction debut, I believe, and everyone's talking about it, so of course I had to pick it up. I also picked up a bunch of books by Chloe Leese. I think this is how to pronounce her name. One is a standalone called Two Wrongs Make a Right that's based off of a Shakespeare play. That kind of just checks all my boxes. As someone who is an English major and also enjoys reading authors where I've enjoyed previous books of theirs in the past, I'm also picking up a bunch of other books by her. There is a series that she writes called The Bergman Brothers, and I read the first book in the month of January, and I loved it. She writes romances. I think she describes it as for romances for people who typically don't get romances. So she writes a lot about things like neurodiversity, people who have various forms of disability, And I thought the first book was great. And so I went and looked at all of her other ones and grabbed 4 of her upcoming books in that series from the library. And I've already started the second book in the series called Always Only You. And this is a book about a female part of a couple who is autistic, and then the male part of the couple is a hockey player. And then there are various other forms of kind of neurodiversity and physical ability and disability that are included throughout the other books. So just so you have the titles, the third book in that series is called Ever After Always. And then the fourth book is called With You Forever. And then there's a 5th book, Everything for You. And I believe the 6th book is coming out soon. So I have all of those books by the same author on my potentials list for this month. Really enjoying them so far. I also picked up All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham. This is the book that is a thriller. I think it has a bit of an unreliable narrator because the female character, the main character, is kind of an insomniac. She hasn't been able to sleep. And so we're seeing kind of some of that unreliability in her narration. And it also involves her son who goes missing at a very young age. I think he's like 3 years old. And it involves a subplot about podcasts. So again, kind of checking all my boxes there in terms of the kinds of things that I think are kind of fun to read. I don't remember where I found this next book. I think I just stumbled across it. It's called The Perfect Escape by Suzanne Park. This is, I think, a young adult novel, and general plot is about, let's see, I think it's about a couple of teenagers who are doing a weekend-long survivalist competition with a cash prize. And there's a couple of high school students who decide to enter that. And it looked kind of interesting, so I decided to add that to my list. Also out from my local library is The Dating Plan. This is the 2nd book in the Marriage Game series. This is actually also a book of the month. A couple of the books I've mentioned actually thus far have been book of the month. I also finally got a copy of People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I've read a ton of other books by Emily Henry, really enjoy her books. And I think this is one of the only ones in her backlist I haven't read yet. So I have that on my list. Also have on my list The Most Likely Club by Alyssa Friedland. And this is basically about a group of friends who make a pact to try to finally achieve their high school superlatives one way or another. So they have kind of these most likely to from their high school yearbook, and they're trying to kind of support each other in achieving those dreams. I'm also going to try again with Fleischman is in Trouble by Taffy Brodesser-Akner. I tried to read this late in 2022 and just couldn't get into it. And so I'm picking it up again because I would like to watch the adaptation that recently came out, and I think it would be fun to read the book first. Also, I grabbed True Biz by Sarah Novick. This is a book that has been getting a lot of buzz. I believe it is a book of the month as well. And this is about students and I think a teacher as well who are in a school for the deaf. And I think is told from multiple perspectives of different characters that are in that school. Okay, a few more here. Also on my list is The Murder Rule by Dervia McTiernan. I picked this up solely because it was on one of the top 10 lists from the New York Times of like thrillers from 2022. So I don't know much about it, but that was enough to get me to check it out from the library. The second book in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, Good Girl, Bad Blood by Holly Jackson. This is kind of a young adult thriller mystery series. The first book takes place, I think, when the main character is a senior in high school and there's a girl who's killed and she kind of solves that crime. This second book, I think, might take place when she's in college. I honestly haven't looked that far, but I liked the first one enough to pick up this second one. And it looks like this also has a true crime podcast subgenre or subplot as well. So looking forward to reading about that. The next one on my list, I also cannot remember where I heard about it, but I heard amazing things. Probably a social media post. It's called One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. And this is, I think, a kind of almost like a fairy tale or like a fantasy style story. I'm not even sure if it's young adult. It's part of a series called The Shepherd King. It's first book in that series. And this is one that, again, somebody must have written just an incredible review. And so I put it on hold and it came in. So I'm going to take a look at that. Another book that everyone is absolutely talking about is Look Closer by David Ellis. A lot of people are saying this gives them kind of You vibes, if you're familiar with the Netflix show You. And I haven't had a chance to pick it up yet, but it's going to be really hard to get again because it's super popular. So I'm going to try to read that this month. I also got Mad Honey by Jodi Picoult and Jennifer Finney Boylan, which is one of the kind of co-authored books by Jodi Picoult. I love this author. I've read a lot of her backlist, but I also really love the memoirs by Jennifer Finney Boylan. So if you're unfamiliar with that author, she's written several like well-received memoirs, and I believe she writes fiction too, but I've really just enjoyed the memoirs. And now that they're partnering up, I was super excited to read this book. I've heard great things about it, so I'm excited to pick that one up. I also have on my list The Three by Sarah Lotz. This is an author that I read. I'm trying to remember what I read of her. Oh, I read The Impossible Us, and I believe I read that in December of 2022 and really loved it. This one is about child survivors of plane crashes, which checks a bunch of my boxes. I love reading about plane crashes. I'm not sure why, but I do. And so it sounded really interesting, and I also really loved her earlier work. So I'm going to pick up that. What has been a long time on my list is Hillary Clinton and Louise Penny's co-authored State of Terror, which I haven't had a chance to read yet. So I've got that out from the library as well on audio. And then the last book that I have on my list for this month is a book called Judas 62 by Charles Cumming. This is the second book in the Box 88 series, which is kind of like a CIA-esque spy thriller series. I read the first one last year, really enjoyed it, so I thought I would pick up the second one in that series. Okay, a lot of books on my list and a lot of really good books on my list. I'm super excited to dig into a bunch of these. But next, I want to go ahead and do my alphabet challenge so I can go ahead and pick out the books that I'm going to be reading in the month of February from my Kindle. So I'm going to pick a random letter from my container here. And I picked the letter R. So let me go ahead and look in my Kindle. I'm just going to organize it really quickly alphabetically by the letter R, and I'm going to pick out 5 books that would be a fit for me to read in this next month. All right. So I'm just glancing through, and immediately I am picking out a book called Rebel Talent by Francesca Gino. This is a book subtitled Why It Pays to Break the Rules at Work and in Life. And this is an author that I actually saw give a keynote, and I wanted to pick up this book because I was really interested in the kind of research that she does. So I'm going to read that. Let's see. I'm also this is an easy one for me to pick out. I'm going to pick out Red Shirts by John Scalzi. I've read John Scalzi in the past. After watching a bunch of Star Trek movies last year as part of another challenge that I did, watching those movies with my partner, this seems like a really easy choice. So I'm excited to add that to my list. I'm checking out another book here that I think is one in a series, and I'm pretty sure I have read both of the first books in this series. So I'm going to also add Remain Silent, a Manon Bradshaw novel. This is by Susie Steiner, and it's basically about a detective in Britain. And I've read the first 2 books, like I said, in this series and really enjoyed them. So I'm going to pick up that third one because I haven't read it yet. Okay, so that's 3. Let me pick 2 more here. I am also going to add, ooh, wow, there's a bunch of really good ones. This is kind of tough. I'm going to add The Road Trip by Beth O'Leary, which I believe is a romance, but I've read other Beth O'Learys in the past and have really enjoyed them. So I'm going to add that. And I am also going to add just a really popular thriller called Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney, just because I keep seeing it everywhere and I haven't read it yet. So I'm going to add that to my list. So those are my 5 additional ones that I'm going to add for my alphabet challenge. So this is going to be a packed month of reading. It is the shortest month of the year. I'm not really sure how this is going to go. So feel free to check back in at the end of this month with my debrief video to see how far I was able to get in February, and I'm really excited to dive in to this next month of reading. Until I see you on the next video, happy reading.